Aloha!
Aloha!
My name is Krista Laxmi-Ditton.
And I'm Michael Ditton.
And we are Infinite.
Activation.
Coming to you from
San Diego, California.
Today we are going to talk about communication. And communication is a key.
Very much so.
Why
in
is
everything.
Why is it a key?
Well, in order to get a message across, clarify something, communication is just part of everything. I mean, people can't read minds, and in order to fix or figure something out, you got to talk about it. I mean, things just don't happen by themselves. So, communication is key.
Yeah. So today we will share with you some of the tricks and tips what you can do to make your communication better. And we have practiced it ourselves, not only with each other, but also previously, with everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
So many times people ask us, like, you guys seem so happy all the time. Do you ever fight? What's going on there, like on the backstage? Can you share with us? And we don't fight, but at times we are both very strong people. We have some disagreements.
Sure.
So one agreement we have with each other about disagreements is what?
Well, one, we try to talk about it and address it. We never try to go to bed angry. So there's a couple of them that are kind of key.
And disagreement, agreement is that we agree sometimes that we disagree.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, so, and that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes you have to see both sides, or, somebody else's view of what it is, and even though it might not exactly be the same view, that's okay. I mean, we're different people, and we're different personalities, and we have different purposes, different missions, and we're not all going to be alike. If we were, it wouldn't be a very fun place.
Mm-hmm. One other important key is that we allow each other to be who we are. Like, I'm not forcing Michael to be someone else, and Michael is not forcing me to be someone else. If that motivation comes from inside of me, myself, to change myself, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But we know that we have different characters, we come from different cultures, we have different backgrounds. So, and also, we are not very young. We are pretty like getting to the mature age.
Yep.
So we have our certain ways of doing things and habits. So we also are respectful towards those.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pretty important.
Yeah. Yeah. We're stubborn old dogs.
Yeah. But we have also learned then some things which, didn't work earlier, or where we did mistakes. So now we don't do those mistakes.
Well, sometimes you can find a compromise too.
Yeah. And one thing which has really helped our communication is actually the 5 love languages. We can put this link here as well, so you can do a little research on that if you haven't heard about it. Mm-hmm. When we met, this was something very new for you, right?
It was.
So we did the test, and then what came out?
My strongest love language when I first took it, and I believe even the second time I took it, was to be of service. And that is who I am.
And mine is affirmations. Mm-hmm. So one way of me to receive love, or the easiest way, is to give compliments or affirm or acknowledge something I have done or what I am. Mm-hmm. And for you, this is to do it through service. Yeah,
the love language I give is service, but I think the one I receive is different. I think the one I receive is, I forget which one that is.
Quality time, maybe?
Yeah, I definitely like quality time.
Or touch.
I like that too, but I think quality time is higher on the list for me.
Yeah. So we recommend you to do that test, and then you will get much more clarity what type you are and what your loved ones are, and then you know how to approach them better.
And why that's important is I'm really good at giving love, period. But one of my strengths is through the form of service. So, if Crystal needs to do something, I support her doing it. I make sure that, I provide the support and everything I can for her, and that's kind of the form of service. But her need, her love language need, is actually affirmation. So, if I wasn't aware of that, as good as I could be in service, she would still be lacking in where I fell short in affirmations. And it's not that I don't give affirmations, it's just I'm not as strong with that as I am with the other. So I am more conscious about that, and in order to make sure that her cup is filled, I make sure that I'm conscious and I give more affirmations. And it is a little bit more of a challenge for me because it doesn't come naturally for me, but I know it's important for her, and I want to make sure that her cup is filled and that she's happy and that she feels loved and everything else. And I know it's important because I've experienced this firsthand in a previous relationship where I wasn't aware of that. And I'm not going to say it cost me my relationship, but it really opened my eyes to, I thought I was really good at, conveying my love because I have so much to offer and I don't hold back. But I never realized that there was 5 love languages and that I was stronger in one that was good and nice and well received, but it wasn't the one that was needed. So, and it did cause some friction.
Mm-hmm. So you can also use it not only with a partner you are living with or loved one, but also at work.
Yeah.
So colleagues, there can be so many relationships.
And I think there's different tests for different relationships as well.
Yeah, and even ages, like teenagers and so on.
Yeah. And also the second part of that is, as I was talking about not knowing before and missing the boat on that, one of the things that we're now talking about right now is communication. I also wasn't aware of it because it wasn't communicated to me, and even though
expressing the needs,
and even though I'm pretty perceptive, I missed that as well. So not only was I not fulfilling that love language, but I had no knowledge that I was lacking in it because I wasn't told. And had I been told, maybe I could have been a little bit better at it. So I like to believe that.
And here is also where I know so many women sometimes get blocked or struggle with. We as women, we want to, of course, express what do we need and how do we need. But if a man maybe hasn't had the experience or role models how to hold space and make the woman feel safe, then the woman actually feels that I can't probably express what my need is, and that will be suppressed, and then the woman turns bitter, and then that bitterness will be like thrown at the partner, and then nothing nice comes of it.
Yeah. So basically, if you need to share that communication, just make sure it's shared in a nice and loving way, not like, hey, idiot, I need this, because that's just going to create a wall by the other person. But if 2 people sit down and they actually care for each other, whether they're partners or friends or what have you, and somebody says, hey, I truly feel that I need something a little bit different and I think you can help me with it, then they're more willing to be receptive and hear you out and hopefully even attempt to do it. But if you call somebody to the table and you're not nice about it, then of course you're probably not going to get it.
Yeah, always express everything with love, gratitude, kindness, respect, and then that goes very far.
And it's a 2-way street too.
Yeah. And one other really important thing which I started to learn when I started to go to Al-Anon, they call it hangry, which means that if your needs are not met, if you're tired, you're hungry, you maybe are overwhelmed, all of these things are happening, then many times your communication will fall short. So you will be very short when you express what you need or how you want things. And if you have that issue from previous time that you are afraid to express yourself in situations like that or confront others with your needs, then you will probably suppress, and then there is this whole vicious circle starting, and it's not good for anyone, not for you or not for people you are communicating with. So this is why it's always good to check in with yourself, like, am I rested enough? Am I fed? Do I feel good? And if you get no to all of these questions, maybe you need to just take a little check out time
Yeah.
and then
But
get
if
yourself balanced. And
but if
talk.
something does need to be conveyed when you're feeling that way,
Yeah, you can say it like, I
but
need
you
time.
yeah, you can either say I need time to chill and process this or what have you, or if you still need to say something, what you want to do is take a minute, breathe, count to 10, relax a little bit so that it's not said with any anger or anxiety or anything, and it will help you in your communication.
Yeah. And one other thing we practice is active listening. So when one starts to speak, the other one is listening. And before the one starts to speak, that person can also say, I would like you to just hear me out. So one person just vents out whatever is going on. And then you can also say, I want you just to hold space. I want you to give me reflection. What do you think? What's going on? Can you guide me to some direction? Or you can say what really most men like, can you give me some solutions? And so according to what it is you need, you can express it so the other partner knows. And while this one person is expressing him or herself, the other person is just listening, no interruption. And once the one person who is talking is done, then the other person will give and
Based on
based
what
on
the
what the
desire
need
is.
was.
Yeah.
And then you can do exchange if you need. Sometimes it's also for women, for example, we just need to be heard. And just, sometimes it feels like I want to just vent out, and then can you just, hold me? And that's it.
Yep.
I don't need any solution. And
Right.
men, very often, they go straight to the solution.
Right.
It's just the way men are.
Yeah, just they're always trying to fix something because they feel if they fix something, that's their responsibility or that's what's going to make it better. But that's not always the case.
Yeah. And one other really important thing which we use in communication is transparency. So this gets very important, especially when you start to get into open relationships and other people get involved. So everything will be transparent. But also in everyday things, that you are transparent about your needs or your agenda or what you're doing or where you're going, whatever it is, so the other person is informed. Not that you just like disappear and then the other person is really, sometimes I forget my phone and then you get like really like worried, like what's going on. So it's my responsibility to even borrow a stranger's phone and call Michael and say like, hey, I forgot my phone, everything's fine, I get back.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really dislike that word transparency, especially since politicians use it as...
what word would you use?
Yeah, to be honest with you, if you're honest, that is as transparent as you can get because all you're really saying is to be honest. Share if whatever the situation is, be transparent or be honest about it. So I look at it a little differently. I mean, transparency is honesty. If it's honestly how you feel or it's a situation that you might be in that you need to share, that's my preference. I'm not a big fan of transparency.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I agree to disagree.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
well,
fine.
like I said, I think my biggest pet peeve with it is now people use it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I agree on that. Yeah. And then another thing is when we have these moments where we run into a difficulty or challenge in a communication, we figure out what just happened, why we had this situation going up, what other things are connected to that. So sometimes we just discover that we have different characters, we have different ways of functioning. And then as we discover that, then we know also that, okay, we can approach this differently or we can do this differently. And then we learn that and maybe even do notes and remember that so that next time when we have something similar show up, then we already know that we can communicate it in a different way.
Yeah, and sometimes, funny enough, two people will have the same end goal or end result in mind, but they say it two different ways. So that's why communication is good, because if you don't fully understand, you can't discount what that person's saying because they may be saying the exact same thing as you, just differently.
Yeah. And then, of course, there is a cultural thing. So, in our relationship, especially, so Estonians in their communication style are very direct.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have much like, please, here you are, could you please, We grew up in a different society. We were really all about, surviving, and that was how we functioned. So now, as I'm in United States, I have noticed that this is not the way people communicate here. So I'm learning, and sometimes I learn that when now I'm communicating with Estonians, like I have a clash with them because I'm overly polite and overly like, here you are and this and that, and they don't understand what's wrong with me. Like, are you sick?
Yeah.
So
Well, it's just different, different personalities, different cultures. I mean, we even have some of that on the East Coast of the United States.
yeah.
I mean, it's just, geographically where you're from, and, how history has been. So
Yeah.
it's not, it's not that it's right or wrong, but
It's just different.
it's different. But
Yeah.
but I grew up with, more of the pleases and thank yous and polites, and I kind of like to instill that in my day to day. So,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, and you can teach me.
Yeah, you've done quite well.
Yeah. So these are some tips about communication which you can put into use. Please check out the task sheet as usual. And we know that if you focus consciously on your communication, it will get better, and everything in your life gets better, because communication is one of the main ingredients in any relationship. So
No
very
doubt.
important.
Very important.
So thank you, and
Mahalo.
till the next time.